Harrowing footage has captured the moment a woman staggered from the flaming wreckage of a helicopter after it crashed and exploded into a fireball in the Grand Canyon. Witnesses watched in horror as the sightseeing helicopter with 6 British friends on board made weird maneuvers before clipping a cliff, snapping off its tail end, and plummeting 600 feet to the base of the gorge, killing a vet worker, her boyfriend and his lawyer brother. The tragedy happened moments after a minister had married a British couple from London on a ridge close to the crash scene, with members of the wedding party rushing to help as a woman clambered out of the inferno. Wedding photographer Teddy Fujimoto told how one female survivor appeared burned over most of her body and another woman was covered in blood. Meanwhile, another eyewitness told of hearing inhuman screams which echoed around the canyon as she raced to the aid of survivors at the Wallapai Nation Reservation near the Grand Canyon's west rim. Becky Dobson, 27, Stuart Hill, 30, and Jason Hill, 32, all died while pilot Scott Booth, 42, and passengers Jennifer Barham, 39, Ellie Millward, 29, and Jonathan Udall, 32, remain in a critical condition in hospital. The 3 couples were celebrating Stuart's 30th birthday as they toured the Wallapai Nation Reservation near the Grand Canyon's west rim. Pilot Scott Booth, 42, was airlifted to hospital where he remains in a critical condition. The helicopter, owned by Papillon, a sightseeing company that specializes in helicopter tours of the canyon. Saturday's crash was Papillon's 4th fatal accident in the past 20 years, claiming 10 lives since 1999. Investigators are likely to pay special attention to Papillon's EC-130 helicopter, which generally lacks a system to keep it from exploding on impact, denying passengers a few extra minutes to try to escape, according to aviation attorney Gary C. Robb. Video footage shot by Minister Douglas shows a woman staggering away from the flames, reportedly screaming "Jason." It is unclear whether the survivor pictured as Ms. Barham or Ms. Millward. He told The Sun, "I was just finishing up a wedding. The couple, from London, were happy and looking at the Grand Canyon." He told ABC News, "I had taken my phone and I was zooming in to see if I could see anybody and a lady walked out of the flames and I just lost it." He said he saw the helicopter fall and hit the bottom with the biggest explosion you ever heard and then flames like you never seen before. Katie Keneally told Las Vegas Now, "There were people screaming. We just heard these inhuman screams of pain. As soon as we got to the edge of the cliff, we could just see the smoke billowing up. The other gentleman was just screaming. It was echoing throughout the canyon. It was just horrific." Ms. Keneally worked alongside other bystanders to help the injured while they waited for emergency crews to arrive on the scene. She said one of the survivors, thought to be Jennifer Barham, was frantically asking what happened to her partner, Jason Hill. Her significant other was one of the men that were not able to make it out. She just kept screaming his name over and over, wanting to know what happened. Ms. Keneally said she had to treat the wounded and administer fours by torchlight in the dark, adding, "I had an EMT standing over with a flashlight because I couldn't see anything, and I did it mostly by feel because she needed more fluid." British student Conrad Fish was in a helicopter in the Grand Canyon which landed moments before the crash. The 19-year-old heard a loud bang behind him and found the survivors covered in open wounds, with their clothes torn off from the impact. He and his friend remained at the scene until midnight, almost 7 hours after the crash, helping emergency services to bring in rescue supplies. The teenager from South Cadbury in Somerset said, "They were all in a very bad way, they had open wounds all over their bodies, and their clothes were completely torn off." And Conrad said that if circumstances had been slightly different he could have been riding in the stricken aircraft. He said, "We were collected from a hotel near to where we were staying, and I was sat next to some of the victims on the bus. However, we had very little conversation with them and I didn't even catch their names." He added, "As the helicopter came down we were taking a picture, so I didn't see the descent, but I heard a very loud bang behind us as the impact was made. A group of us started to collect things such as fire extinguishers, water, stretchers or really anything we could find that we thought might have helped. The walk to where the crash took place was very slippery and rugged so it made getting supplies down very hard." By the time Conrad and his friend reached the crash site, the survivors had managed to get clear of the helicopter. Stuart and Jason's grief-stricken father, Reverend David Hill, said a light has truly gone out but took comfort in the incredibly close brothers dying together. He choked back tears as described his sons, Stuart, a Mercedes car salesman, and Jason, a solicitor, as wonderful boys who were inseparable. The Eurocopter EC-130 crashed in unknown circumstances at around 5:30 p.m. on Saturday, 60 miles northwest of Peach Springs, Arizona. The tragedy occurred just 3 months after Ellie and Jonathan got married in front of family and friends, including Becky and Stuart. Mr. Hill, 32, was a private equity solicitor for national law firm Shoesmiths, after joining as a trainee and had worked his way up to senior associate with the company. Shoesmith's chief executive Claire Rowe said they were saddened by the tragic passing of a respected and loved member of their firm. She said, "He was hard-working, full of energy and enjoyable to work with, and we are greatly saddened by the news of his death and that of his brother Stuart. Our immediate thoughts are with their family at this very difficult and tragic time." Stuart and Jason's cousin, Holly Campbell, confirmed that Jason was with girlfriend Jennifer when the crash took place. She said, "This is a devastating time for our family. We have spoken to my uncle and we all just trying to come to terms with what has happened. I saw them both at my son's christening in December. They were kind, caring and loved by all who knew and met them." Animal lover Becky Dobson worked as a receptionist at the Vets for Pets practice in Worthing, West Sussex, and had dreams of becoming a veterinary nurse. She described herself as an outgoing person, always up for having fun. Ms. Dobson's father Peter Dobson said his daughter was full of life and looking forward to going to Vegas for her boyfriend's 30th birthday to celebrate. He added, "She was a lovely girl. Everyone liked her, she liked her traveling, she went to Australia for a year to travel around. She was always happy. They just went for a long weekend, a 4-night break. They were staying in Vegas, they had been looking forward to it for a long time. They, Stuart and Becky, have known each other quite a while, they both live in Worthing. They were really happy together, they were always going out and doing things, just enjoyed being with each other. The whole thing is just terrible." One witness told ABC News a young woman collapsed to the ground and began screaming the name Jason. Wallapai Nation Police Chief Francis Bradley Sr. said the survivors were taken to a Las Vegas hospital at 2 a.m. on Sunday, some 9 hours after the crash. The 4 survivors are being treated as level 1 trauma patients, meaning they have critical, life-threatening injuries. Describing herself on the Vets for Pets website, Becky said, "My favorite things to do are spending time up the yard with my 4-legged, beautiful boy, Buddy the Irish sports horse, seeing friends and family, and I also love to travel the world. I love my job and I am hoping to one day fulfill my dream of becoming a veterinary nurse." Becky's parents booked return flights to the UK and her elder sister, Nicola Rugman, 32, was waiting for them to return. Her mother-in-law Ellen Rugman said the whole family were absolutely devastated by the shocking tragedy and the loss. She said they were all struggling to comprehend how the accident had happened but were too upset to speak. Jonathan Udall, 32, and his wife, Ellie Millward, 29, went on the trip for Mr. Hill's birthday and as part of their honeymoon after getting married last year, according to Jonathan's father, Philip. Ellie Millward is an agency support manager for Yorkshire Building Society and works alongside her husband Jonathan Udall, an area manager for the same company in the southeast. Speaking from the family home in Southampton, Philip Udall said the family were desperately trying to get a flight over to their son and daughter-in-law's bedside. He said, "We found out yesterday lunchtime that Jonathan and Ellie had been involved in an accident. We don't know much more than what has been reported in the papers and we are just desperately trying to get a flight over at the moment. We have spoken to the hospital and they are in a critical condition but they told us they are currently stable. The information is currently quite sketchy but we know that other families will be suffering a lot worse than us at the moment. Others were not so lucky." Jonathan and Ellie were on their honeymoon after recently getting married. "At this point, we don't know much more, we are just in a rush to get out there. We're desperate for news." The couple's friend Chris Tucker has since set up a Just Giving page to raise money to repatriate the pair. Jennifer Barham, 39, is a partner at the law firm Bircham Dyson Bell. Jenny Birchmore, a friend and colleague of Ellie Millward, said, "I'm so shocked by this because Ellie and I were only talking about her trip to the US a couple of weeks ago and she was looking forward to it so much. I'm just hoping and praying she is going to be alright and she's not too badly injured. That should end so horribly as a tragedy. She's such a kind and compassionate person. Everyone she works with is praying for her." She said Ellie was always taking part in charity fundraisers and was a beautiful and kind person. Ellie Millward's parents, Terry and Maggie, are understood to be flying out to the US to be at their daughter's bedside. Chief Bradley said one of the survivors suffered severe burns and the pilot had a severe injury to one of his limbs. He said rescue crews were hampered by high winds of up to 50 miles per hour and darkness on Saturday night along with rugged terrain. He added, first responders had to be flown in and walk to the crash site. Quartermaster Canyon is an extremely remote area. We had to call in specially trained crews, people with night vision goggles. Caitlin Rodriguez was on the same tour as the 6 friends and witnessed the tragedy. She wrote on Facebook, "I was on this tour and moments after our helicopter landed, witnessed the crash. My amazingly brave mother, along with several others, trekked down into the ravine to assist the survivors. We were stranded in the Grand Canyon for hours, my mom being at the bottom administering medical attention to the survivors for over 10 hours. So very proud of her and all who helped the victims of the crash. Such a tragic accident." Photographer Teddy Fujimoto told DailyMail.com he had flown to the Grand Canyon to take wedding pictures when he saw people rushing by. "Our pilot and other pilots all started running. I followed them and I saw smoke. Immediately saw 2 girls. I could see that they were alive and conscious. They were in their 30s or 40s, he said. People made their way down. It was certainly a dangerous climb down for them. It took around 10 minutes for the emergency services to arrive. By the time they did, most of the fire was out." Fujimoto said he was left numbed by what he had seen. "Everybody was in shock. I just felt horrible," he said. "I saw these 2 ladies run out of it, then the explosion. One of the survivors was bloody and her clothes had burned off." He said one woman appeared burned over most of her body and the other woman was covered in blood. "It's unimaginable, the pain," he added. "You could hear the screaming loudly, even from all that way away. I've never seen anything like it." The helicopter was owned by Papillon Airways, a sightseeing company that specializes in helicopter tours of the canyon. The tour company released a statement on Sunday, promising full cooperation with crash investigators and offering sympathy. "It is with extreme sadness we extend our heartfelt sympathy to the families involved in this accident," Papillon Group CEO Brenda Halverson said. "Our top priority is the care and needs of our passengers and our staff." Calls and emails to Nevada-based Papillon, which bills itself as the world's largest aerial sightseeing company, for comment on the crash were not immediately returned Sunday. The company's website says it flies roughly 600,000 passengers a year around the Grand Canyon and on other tours. It also notes that it abides by flight safety rules and regulations that substantially exceed the regulations required by the Federal Aviation Administration. The Federal Aviation Administration will be investigating the crash of the Eurocopter EC-130, spokesman Alan Kennitzer said. In 2003, 7 people were killed when a Sundance helicopter hit a canyon wall, and in the 1990s there were at least 6 deadly crashes involving helicopters or light aircraft, killing a total of 35 people. The campaign group Aviation Impact Reform say there have been at least 30 significant accidents at the canyon since 1980, involving fatal and non-fatal injuries. Aviation attorney Gary C. Robb said potential factors leading to the crash could include wind gusts of around 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometers per hour, pilot error, mechanical failure or company pressure to meet demand for the popular Grand Canyon air tours to the reservation. Unlike the more tightly regulated air tours within Grand Canyon National Park, helicopters on tribal land function like an airborne shuttle service, quickly depositing tourists on landing pads for lunches or hikes at the river's edge or pontoon boat rides. Just as quickly, they whisk them away. The Federal Aviation Administration granted the Hualapai tribe an exemption nearly 2 decades ago to regulations on flight times, routes and total trips because the rules would harm the tribe's economy, which relies on the busy flow of tourists. Papillon Grand Canyon Helicopters, which flew the helicopter that crashed Saturday, said it is cooperating with the investigation and abides by flight safety regulations that exceed those required by the FAA. Hualapai tribal leaders said they are halting helicopter tours at the canyon for now and are working with federal investigators to find out exactly what happened here, in what marks the first such incident to claim the life of a passenger at the West Rim in 15 years. Investigators are likely to pay special attention to Papillon's EC-130 helicopter, which generally lacks a system to keep it from exploding on impact, denying passengers a few extra minutes to try to escape, Robb said. He added, "You can't replace those 3 lives that were lost. The irony here is it was to be a joyful, fun experience and it ended in the worst possible fashion, in death and serious injury."